And we'll start with a
recording in progress.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I call this meeting to order. And Rick, are you able to hear us? You may, if you want to send them a text or something and ask them to call in, maybe on the phone. Okay, so I apologize in advance because I forgot my glasses, so I'm going to pull this as far away as possible. So I'd like to start off with a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of May 23rd, 2022. Rebecca, second. Cindy, any comments, questions, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the regular monthly minutes of May 23rd, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay. At this time, we'll open it up for public comment.
The only thing I've got
If you would say who you are. Okay.
That letter that was dropped off this morning was a letter of communication between the people and village board. It was not a petition. And requesting rescinding the motion if you make one, it's not. They have to need to change their mind about getting rid of the old fire truck because of historical value to the people of the village. And that's it.
Okay. Is there anyone else making public comment this day? No?
Can a trustee make a public comment?
Yes, you can make a public comment as an individual.
Okay.
So you're speaking on behalf of Jim Rumsey?
Yes, on
Okay.
behalf of Jim Rumsey. I wonder the value of insuring a vehicle that's that age, and looking at the costs, I doubt that it's useful. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
Any?
say one more thing?
Yep.
The truck right now is covered under the blanket policy for all vehicles in the village. And if you remove it from the policy, you wouldn't change it one penny one way or another, because your liability is right at ceiling level for all your equipment and whatnot in the village. So really, it doesn't.
I would like to correct that statement. It is having a separate policy, and we will speak further under new business under the fire truck.
Well, yeah,
So-
yeah, not only that, but our liability insurance is $32,000.
Yeah.
And I don't find it acceptable to take on any additional risk.
We'll speak about that, but thank you for your public comment, Shorty and Jim. And did you have any public comment at this time? Not yet. Okay, good. Thank you. Rich Armstrong has joined from the community, so thank you. All right, let's turn it over to water, wastewater, Ed Charpeau. Ed, I can't hear you. Are you? Oh, there you go.
I got it.
All righty.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start with the water department. We've installed all but a few meters in the village. There's been some discussion about the transfer switch for the generator at the well building. It still does operate manually. However, I did find out that a new one will not fit in the panel. I still find that hard to believe. But at this time, we're just waiting to see if we qualify for a grant to replace that generator anyways, which in that time, the transfer switch would be replaced. But everything is fine and it still operates. We just have to do it manually. All the hydrants in the village have been flushed. In doing so, we caused some problems. We had a major break at the library, which we responded to very quickly and got off within 15 minutes. That was repaired. That was an 8-inch main with a 4-inch hole in it.
Wow.
We had a small leak on Edgemont that has been repaired. I have another note on that coming up. And then also the A-frame on Elm Lake Road had a major leak that has been resolved at this time. And then there is currently possibly a leak somewhere in the vicinity of 2818 Route 8. We did some work there today, replaced the meter. We're trying to determine exactly where the water's coming from because in this case, it's not just boiling out of the ground like it normally would. It's just a wet lawn, basically. Once we figure that out and determine who's responsible to fix it, then we will move ahead and proceed.
Ed,
I have a little, yeah.
when you turn off I know you've done it, but when you turn off the curb stop, does the leak stop? Or is there a curb stop issue?
So in most cases, if we're finding a leak in somebody's yard or very close to the edge of the road, the first thing we do is we turn our curb stop off. If the water stops leaking or stops coming out of the ground after we turn our curb stop off, then it is no longer the village's responsibility. If it doesn't, then it is the village's responsibility. Unfortunately, I could not turn it off longer than an 7-hour period. And because the lawn was so saturated, I could not get a good idea of whether or not it was ours or theirs. It really didn't dry up at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about
And
that.
I don't see a continuous flow anywhere to really make that determination.
Okay. Thank you.
So as a side note for Edgemont Drive, I don't know if this is something our lawyers should look into. I think Crystal and Tracy have looked into it a little bit, but have found nothing. I did get a word from one of the property owners down at the end of Edgemont that we may not actually be responsible for that water main that is running down there. About halfway down the road, there was a small leak. We're under the impression that it's our responsibility until I saw what was underground. The entire line that runs down Edgemont Drive is Schedule 40 PVC. Which is definitely not anywhere near what we are required to have by our own laws.
Okay. And Edgemont Road is a private road.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So where do we stand?
We do drive down it to pick up garbage, but there's also a sewer line that runs behind their houses, which I know we're not responsible for. But we really need to determine who is responsible for the Schedule 40 PVC. I am so surprised that it has not broke numerous times in the past, especially with our pressures.
Okay.
It was repaired. It took all day because I don't have parts to fix Schedule 40 PVC. We had to run all the way to Northville to pick up those parts. But in any case, it is fixed. However, I really think we should look into it for future issues. And try to determine who actually is responsible for that line.
Crystal.
Tracy looked into, she was looking for easement stuff and anything with Exmont.
Yes.
She pulled out a bunch of files, but as far as, we haven't been able to find anything yet.
Okay, so we probably have to contact the village attorneys.
Yeah, it's on our list to look further into the files to see if there's something
Okay.
in there.
So we'll look through all the easements and speak with the village attorney to determine what the next steps are for that. Do we have situations in the village where there's a private road and we own the water and sewer line?
Wolf Complex.
Okay.
Well, okay. Scenarios where it used to be private and it may now be village property or
Right.
vice versa.
No. Now I'm talking that are private, currently private. Do we own any sewer lines?
What's the
On
Wolf
private
Complex?
Water or sewer? Either.
Either or.
Right. So Wolf Complex, that was dedicated to the village and the village accepted that.
Correct. But
Right.
in my eyes,
That's the scenario.
because that's Schedule 40 PVC, I highly doubt the village would have ever accepted it.
Right.
So that's where I'm leading to the fact that it's not our responsibility. There is a hydrant down there, but it comes off of White Rock Trail. So
Okay.
it's on its own separate line. This is a Schedule 40 PVC that runs all the way from Route 8 all the way down to the last two cabins.
Okay,
Um,
all right, so we'll evaluate the easements, what do you call those things? For that, how, the deeds. We'll evaluate the deeds and the easements and then contact the lawyer on how to proceed with that.
right?
Okay.
Just another example of this, though, is like technically garbage pickup. All of their garbage should go to the top of the road,
Right,
but we're nice enough to go down and pick it up.
right,
There's no manholes down that road. There's nothing of that sort.
right.
So we can move on from that. Expenditures are about the same as always.
Oh,
We have a grant.
Ed, I'm sorry, one question from Trustee Smith.
Yep,
I'm
go ahead.
just wondering if we should be starting to think about having curb stop as be the standard, rather than some have curbs, some have the house, and would that help with some of this?
Well, everyone, I'm confused a little bit, but everyone has a curb stop, or we have a curb. Okay, we have a curb stop at 98% of all of the homes in the village. Edgemont Drive is one of those strange situations where I didn't even have a curb stop. They have a curb stop after their meter, where this break was, or after the meter pit. We didn't even have a curb stop. Generally, as we had discussed earlier, curb stop and beyond is the homeowner's responsibility. Curb stop and to the main is our responsibility. But in this case, it was just a weird scenario that.
So we have to determine whether it's even our pipe to be responsible for, because in that case, it would be the technical curb stop would be at Route 8. And then they're responsible, would be responsible for everything.
But it sounds like sometimes it stops at the road, and for other people, and that the homeowner is responsible from the road across all the property. It sounds like other people have the town responsible from the house.
So 98% of the homes within the village with water have curb stops at the road when it comes off the main. So that's where the curb stop is that we're responsible for, and then everything after that is the homeowners. In this situation, it's a private road where curb stops were not installed in the beginning. It's still a private road, so technically, the curb stop would be at Route 8, and then all of those people are responsible for the road. You know, are responsible for any water damage. Water pipe.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to determine, but that's the way it might be. So this is a unique situation. So so when we have Ed, when we have other private roads in the village that have water lines going through them, and I'm talking about private now, those curb stops would be at the road. They'd be responsible for anything from the road, from the major roads, right?
Yeah. Unless they came into some agreement with the village, but we're not going to get into that.
Right. Okay, so we'll explore that further. Okay. Thank you.
As for grants for water, the only grant we are in for right now is the generator grant, which scored the best out of the firehouse and the wastewater plant. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit. We have projects going on for water, the FEMA water crossing, which will be going out to bid with the FEMA sewer project. It's just better to do it all as one package, get a better price in that long run, because they've already moved all their equipment and so on and so forth. I'll move on to wastewater now. Speedies and DMRs have been completed for May. We're still checking pump stations. The outside plant has been pumped down. Not really. I filled the new digester tank with that to test the blowers and everything. We have to now empty that to make sure there's no leaks. That's for another company. All right. Our I&I study was supposed to start today. Unfortunately, I had to push it off. For one, today they were making a repair at the pump station down at the wastewater plant, which I needed to be around for. And two, tomorrow we're all hands on deck to get this rebar and forms tied up for this tower. It's quite a bit of work. I mean, the professionals come in and make it look easy, but for us, people who don't do it very often, it's going to take a little bit of time. So we offered our help for that. I'm hoping he'll get back to me maybe for next week, sometime soon. I just want to touch on the wastewater surveillance network. We have sent out 3 samples. I don't know if I should say this on here. All samples did have a detect for COVID. However, it's much lower than anywhere else in the state. If you want to look into this more, on here I put on the dashboard for what the rest of the state looks like, what our samples look like. It's wastewater. COVID's a lot of things. I think it's going to be detected no matter what.
Yep.
That's my opinion, but we're trying to help them out to broaden their range and sample the entire state. So anything we can do to do so. They've sent all the coolers with ice packs. They're paying for all the sampling. Basically, all I'm doing is I got to do it again tomorrow. I'm grabbing like 3 or 4 grabs. We're sending that as a sample, and then they're sending the results.
And these are weekly samples, correct?
Yes, correct. We've done 3 so far. I'll be doing the 4th one this week.
Okay. And what is the duration of the study?
As long as they have funding, I guess. They applied for more funding that they're supposed to find out about in August.
Okay.
So they have us through that. And then if they get more funding, I'm sure they'll have us move forward unless they don't feel as though it's financially suitable for us to be sampling anymore.
Okay.
As for the upgrade project, the project is near completion. We had a small break in one of our lines coming out of the main pumps, or one of the pump station at the wastewater plant. So I had them add that into the project as a change order. It needed to be fixed. It's not something that we can do. We do not have confined space equipment because they're already under contract. It was just easier to go that route. Today they did the repair. Tomorrow we'll do the test. I have Adirondack Septic coming tomorrow just to pump out that station, which they do for us every year anyways, and they are on our budget to do so. They'll hose it down, and then the seam for the 2 concrete structures will be sealed with a water stop cement, hopefully to reduce the infiltration in that pump station. It's 1 pump that does a lot of things at the plant. I definitely want to consider purchasing a spare to have on the shelf in the future. But it needed to be done, so they're working on that. That'll be finished. Miller is pretty much done altogether. Our last final step is to get our startup with Aqualogics for the blowers, the automated air valves, all that. I can still operate the same as I do every other year moving forward, so we should be fine.
Okay. Good. Been very busy down there.
Yeah, we've been very busy. Projects, so Brendan's getting the bid package together for Pump Station 2, but he's also doing the water crossing as well. We're still working out some of the details from Flight, but we did get some costs. I think it was $41,000. Something around those lines. I'd have to look it up. So once he gets all those numbers together, he can get the bid package together. It'll go out to bid, and I'm hoping that'll start in the fall. Unfortunately, just on another note with this grant, as I had said before, for the generators, when Brendan did the application, we did not score very well for sewer. They do not put a lot of priority on that. They put a lot more on the water side of things. We have money left over from the project to cover the cost of the generator. And we've decided that it's best to get that generator now than to wait till January and have a failure in the meantime. The same thing's happening at the wastewater plant. The transfer switch is 20 plus years old. It doesn't always do what it's supposed to function right. It normally turns on, but it doesn't always turn off. The generator itself is going to need a radiator at some point. The front and rear main seals are leaking. I've been through all this before. It really just needs
So you're talking about the wastewater generator? Or are you
Yep,
talking
I'm on
about wastewater?
I'm
Okay,
on-
perfect.
I'm
Yep.
on wastewater now, yeah. Along with that, the propane system that we have a liquid propane. Basically, any normal propane generator, biggest you can get is about 100 kW. We have a 276 kW generator. In order to get enough fuel, you either have to have a 5,000 gallon propane tank to have enough space for the gas, so you have enough all the time to run it, or you have to have this vaporizer, they call it, which takes liquid, turns it to gas, and then constantly provides that gas for the generator to run. That's been replaced 2015. It's starting to fail again. It's just another point of failure that I want to remove, so we're hoping to go to diesel. Brendan's working on those numbers now. It's nothing that we have to take out of funds to pay for. It's already in the project, and I think that's the best way to move forward. Any
When do
questions
we-
on that?
Yes, when do we need to make that decision? Soon? Tonight?
Well, he's already working on it. It's just a change order. We already kind of gave him the go ahead. So,
Well, I think the board needs to give them the go-ahead. We had a meeting between trustee Doniker, you, Brendan, the engineer, and myself, but I think the board needs to,
Other change orders that we've done for the project.
correct, but this is a significant change order, right? This is outside the scope of the project. The other change orders are related.
One, I think it falls within the scope of the project, is what Brendan said.
well, it does because it's at the wastewater plant. So the scope of the project is anything at the wastewater plant. We just didn't have that specifically in there. Now that we have the funds and it's at the wastewater plant, we can
And the
allocate
final-
those funds to.
And the final cost of switching to diesel and the cost of a diesel generator is how much? 385,000, if I
Yep.
recall correctly?
What'd you say?
Was it 385? Am I off base?
No, I think it was just.
No. I think it was like 2 to 250, maybe 300. He hasn't got those numbers yet. That's just us. That's me going online and saying, okay, here's a 275 kW generator for $150,000. But because you're under contract and you're paying contract prices, you got a $40,000 transfer switch and then an electrician to come and do all the hookups. That's probably another 50 grand. So you really don't know until we get the bids in or the quotes.
So are there any, I understand that it's within the scope of the monies of the project monies, but I just want to make sure that the board is comfortable with doing that, to include the generator at the wastewater treatment plant in with the this funding.
With the current project.
Correct.
Well, what's our option?
I would like to make one last note. It is the last big thing that needs to be done at the wastewater plant.
Right. So,
And then everything is basically new.
yeah. So,
Better do it sooner than later, I don't even know if you're gonna get it just later, if there is one available.
Plus, I mean, we already got, I was talking about that was replaced in 2015, it's failed already, it's 2022.
that's just the vaporizer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, 7 years isn't very.
it's not very
No.
long.
And the age of the generator itself is what, 25 years? I mean, it's certainly well past the 10-year mark.
86, something like that. 83.
So, I mean, it's
I'd have to go look at the tag.
30 years, right. So
30
it,
plus years.
so it certainly has paid for itself. So Mark, do you have any
I
comments?
might be
on that?
wrong, so.
Yeah, it needs to be replaced. We have an avenue to replace it under the funding that exists at the wastewater plant. And now's the time to get it done. And that should really be it. That's what Ed needs. And instead of running out in the middle of the night, the generator should start on its own. Ed shouldn't have to respond to manually turn on the generator.
I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, that this is a responsible thing to do, that it's the appropriate thing to do, and we have the opportunity to do it within
Well,
the,
and if we don't use all the funding, then.
it goes back, right?
So, that's why.
We lose it, yeah.
Yeah, we just lose it.
And we need it, it's
Right.
not like we're making something up.
Right, so I think that I would like to have a motion for a change order to purchase and replace the generator at the wastewater treatment system and convert our existing system into diesel and have that as part of the change order. So may I have a motion for that?
Mark, so
Okay, Mark, and second with Rebecca. Any last comments or questions on that? Okay, all in favor say
I just may
aye.
have,
Oh, yes?
no, I may have been wrong on the age. I'm thinking about something else. If you guys really want to know the age, I will let you know, but I know it's 20 years at least.
Yeah, no, it's beyond its life expectancy. Okay, so, all in favor, say aye.
I,
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. So I feel better that purchase is, vetted. Okay, Ed, you have a,
Okay,
are you
so-
finished with your report, or you want to go on to the resolution?
I'm still in my report, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
also moving into the resolution.
Yes.
So as for appropriated fund balances that we've had floating around for quite some time, Crystal is going to be getting a resolution, or is getting a resolution for unrestricted reserves. But I want to talk about the restricted funds moving forward, so you guys all know where monies are going if they're not in a reserve fund. We have for water about $25,000 that's going to be going into the other swing check and air cushion, along with the soft start at the water building for well number 1. Well number 2 has already been done. It costs about 18 grand. Because of the way the world is now, I bumped that up to 25. That will be done this year. We're having a problem right now with well 1. It's not working. We went over today to test it. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to run for more than 5 seconds without the breaker popping. I believe it is a contactor issue that's not pulling in. It's just so out of date. I can't even find people to work on it anymore.
Just to alleviate concerns within the village, we do have a second well pump, so there is water supply that's not an issue at this point.
Correct. So I have quotes going out to, or quotes coming in for the same parts as pump 1. Because it's kind of an emergency, I was hoping to use the same people I used before. They did well for us. I haven't had any problems, and they installed everything reasonably. If you do that under bids, it's going to probably double or triple. It is an emergency, really. We need both pumps. Anyways, moving forward, we have another $25,000 for the water crossing that should cover our 12.5%.
So that's a FEMA project, just by way of remembering.
The rest of the funds, well, I'll let Chris talk about that. I'm just talking about this. So that's it for water.
Those you're proposing would be restricted because they would be used within this year, actually within a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, yes.
Sewer?
Also, so now I'll move on to sewer funds. Same thing here, restricted funds, hopefully to be used within this year-ish. $10,000 for engineering plans for our disinfection system. Unfortunately, the addendum that Brendan did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, to the original project what's going on right now, it wasn't sufficient enough for EFC. So now that we've looked back, what we've found actually over the last 4 years is that UV systems have decreased in price quite significantly. So we're hoping to do a new plan with the UV setup. But in order to do that, we got to have money to do the report. And then that will be used to apply for the funds that DEC has yet to give us to install our disinfection by 2024. If they haven't given us funds by then, we've discussed this, we just won't do it, and then we'll go on consent, and then they'll have to give us the money. And I basically told this flat out to our regional engineer who came and did the inspection. And he was like, okay. So I'll move on from that. We have $100,000 for the FEMA pump station. The reason this is so much is it's our 12.5% plus the upgrades that should be done because we're replacing the station. 2 new pumps, new panel, transfer switch for our generator on wheels, all those little things, brand new pump station. It should come in around 100,000, give or take, when we're all said and done. We have the funds for that, so we might as well use them to upgrade that. And then we have 30,000 for an INA engineering report. So once this INI study or the INI study is done, all this information will be sent off to Lamont, and then they will put together a report. But that also includes any additional studies or things they think should be done, like flow metering or smoke testing, if we find it important and valuable to do so. That will allow us to determine where we spend the rest of our unrestricted funds later on in the future to start fixing sewer mains in the village.
And it also includes the repairs that are required, the engineering.
Yes. Yes. So that's 140,000 for sewer, restricted to be sent this year, hopefully. That's out of 3 something along those lines, and then 50,000 for water, and I think that's out of 100 or so. But Crystal has better information on that.
Yep.
And then just one last thing I want to touch note on is our resolution, which Mark wrote up for piping to go to the ductile iron pipe surplus that we have had, and we discussed at the last board meeting.
So let me share that. Okay. Can we see that? Okay. Yes. So this is a disposition of water piping system that was. So this is stuff we no longer use. So it's become excess and no longer required by the department. The chief operator of the water department has recommended that the following water system piping be disposed of from village inventory. So that's 8-inch, 75 sticks of 8-inch pipe, ductile iron pipe and brand Griffin pipe, and 6-inch, 10 sticks of 6-inch class 5200 ductile iron pipe. Whereas the water system piping above shall be sold to the highest bidder by auction online, Auctions International, and funds from the auction shall be revenue credited to the water department. So we had spoken about this, the reserves. It goes into the capital reserve fund for the water department and capital projects. So may I have a motion to accept this resolution? Cindy, second. Rick, who are you? Jim. Jim Rumsey seconds. Any comments or questions for Ed? Okay, all in favor of passing the resolution to authorize the disposition of excess water system piping, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, so Ed, if you want to stay on while Crystal does her, and then we'll let you go.
No problem.
We didn't start with the resolution from.
Yes, why don't we start with resolutions and give,
All right, so first.
Which one's
is
first?
The resolution for fund balance,
okay.
since
So,
Ed doesn't need to be here for that.
yeah, all right, so let me share that.
So I'm gonna breeze over the first little bit, which is just, saying that when we establish the reserves and for which departments, and, maximum annual contribution for those
Yeah, so just by way of reminder, it's a 5% of the annual revenue. Oh, sorry.
So the Village of Speculators fund balance policy does stipulate a balance of at least 2 months of operating costs to be maintained. After accounting for the fund balance policy, there remains over $120,000 of unrestricted fund balance in the general fund, over $110,000 of unrestricted fund balance in the water fund, and over $300,000 of unrestricted fund balance in the sewer fund. The Village of Speculator will appropriate $20,000, this is where I was just talking about, from unrestricted unrestricted fund balance from the A fund. Oh, sorry, this one's not. Excuse me. That is for the capital reserves for the Department of Public Works, and appropriate $50,000 of unrestricted fund balance from the A fund for the capital project. Sorry, the $20,000 for the equipment and $50,000 for the capital projects for DPW. We will be I just went through this. Do you want me to read the whole thing here?
We can highlight.
Okay. So essentially,
We can go down to the bottom.
We are looking to accumulate money to finance the 5-year project or plan for projects within the water and wastewater departments. Through appropriating an additional $14,000 of unrestricted fund balance from the F fund, which is the water fund, and $50,000 of unrestricted fund balance for the G fund, which is the sewer fund, for capital projects and emergency repairs. For water and sewer department, it's in excess of the 5%.
Yeah, so the bottom line on the second page,
What do you want?
if we just highlight, so within the general fund, we'll appropriate $20,000 for the capital reserve fund for specific equipment to DPW, $50,000 capital reserve for major finance projects, and then within the water department, appropriate $14,000 to the capital reserve to finance specific equipment, with $28,000 going to capital reserve fund for major capital projects. Within sewer, as Crystal said, appropriate $14,800 to the capital reserve fund to finance specific equipment, with $64,800 for the capital reserve for major projects. And then to highlight what Ed had said, we will restrict the following amounts for the projects listed with Ed. So within the water department, allocate or restrict $25,000 for the FEMA water crossing project. That's our portion. Allocate $25,000 for upgrading the well building, pump 1. And then within the sewer department, restricting $100,000 for the FEMA pump station and upgrade fix. Allocate $30,000 for the I&I engineering report and project, including flow testing and whatever other studies are required. And then allocating under restricted funds $10,000 for engineering disinfection report. So may I have a motion to accept the resolution to appropriate unrestricted fund balance to these reserves?
So moved.
Mark? Rebecca, are there any questions or comments with this? So we're moving some into reserve funds for equipment and capital projects, and we are restricting other amounts that will be spent in this year. So no questions, no comments? Okay, all in favor of approving this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Ed, you've got your work cut out for you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Good job.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Okay,
So
so,
it's one resolution, we're
Yes.
just gonna do the second one real quick.
okay, let me call that up. That's a budget amendments.
Yes.
Okay, share.
This resolution is for budget adjustments for the 2022-23 budget. The lease payment for the fire truck, East 79, has been reported within the account code for the fire department equipment. Per our audit completed in the summer of 2021, all installment debt purchases should be reported in codes A 9785.6, which is installment debt purchase principal, and A 9785.7, which is installment debt interest. The board approved the purchase of the security cameras for the Village Hall, Central Garage, Well Building, and sewer plant in December of 2021 to be executed in 2 phases. Phase 1 starting within the 2021-22 budget year, and phase 2 starting within the 2022-23 budget year. The board has planned to move the money appropriated and/or appropriate the funds when the cameras were installed, but due to supply chain delays, the security cameras were delayed until May 2022. With the delays, the completion of the phase 1 was pushed to June 2022. They're actually getting installed this week sometime.
Great.
And excess funds from the 2021-22 budgets were encumbered but need to be moved to the correct account codes for accounting. So.
You want a sip of water after that?
My coffee will do that. The following administration changes will be made to the 2022-23 budget as follows. Move the budgeted amount of $37,285 for E79 lease payment from A 3410.2 fire department equipment to installment debt purchase codes as stated. $32,350 to A 9785.6 installment debt purchase principal, $4,935 to A 9785.7 installment debt purchase interest. For the purchase of the security cameras phase 1, move, and these items were already encumbered from this year. Move $2,549 from A 1325.1 clerk treasurer personnel services to A 1620.2 village hall equipment. Move $1,989.60 from A 1640.4 central garage contractual to A 1640.2 central garage equipment. Move $2,633.70 from A 8160.4 refuse and collection to A 7140.2 parks and playground equipment. Move $895.32 from F 8310.4 water administration contractual to F 8130.2 water administration equipment. Move $1,094.28 from G 8110.4 sewer administration contractual to G 8110.2 sewer administration equipment.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
So may I have a motion to accept these 22-23 budget adjustments as itemized in the resolution?
So moved.
Mark, second. Cindy, any comments or questions?
Most of them are coming out of contractual, but then for the village comes out of the personnel. So we had encumbered money that was left over. They're pending, and I tried to pick a code that it kind of went, like, you know, as far as like the village hall, like my contractual codes for the clerk treasurer and the village hall are not interchangeable, but they're basically for the same sort of things. Same with like we had money left over in personnel services, so I tried to choose them accordingly.
And this was reviewed by the finance committee as well.
Yeah.
Okay, not hearing any more comments or questions. All in favor of approving the resolution for 22-23 budget adjustments, say aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, thank you, Crystal. And now you're going to do the,
Yes, just a couple more things.
Yep.
Okay, my first point actually might be maybe resolved soon. We were still having trouble finding a second lifeguard. I don't know if Jeanette was gonna make a point of talking about this tonight, but, she did meet with Arietta and we're discussing possibly sharing lifeguard, their lifeguard over here at the beach to be open, hopefully 4 days a week, so.
but it was not looking good as of the end of the week.
Okay.
So-
Not looking good, but maybe still a possibility. Otherwise, we really are still having a problem. I have heard, so a number of people not only in our county are having to share, lifeguards, but, nationally, there is a lifeguard shortage. It's a thing. It was in a report recently, I think it was last week.
Wow.
Tracy and I were talking about it just, this morning, so.
So the only lifeguard applicant that we have has applied for other lifeguard positions with the YMCA, and we don't want to hold him back and keep him waiting. So I think we should be able to hear from Arietta this coming week, because what they have done in the past, we don't have a public beach, and they do offer swimming lessons. So the deal would be we would help with swimming lessons and provide a beach, and they would help us cover, some days with lifeguarding. But they're still trying to find someone who would help.
Yeah, so it's still a struggle,
Yeah.
We're hoping to get somebody before.
So at that point, if we don't have lifeguards, we should swim at your own risk.
Well,
Beach closed.
technically, we would have to have the beach closed, we'd have to have our beach closed sign up.
Right, because if you do swim at your own risk, then we're still liable. So my question is, if we have the beach closed, can we still put up the ropes? No ropes
I
even?
would say no.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so it's totally closed if it's
Like,
closed.
we don't have it open at all yet.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Which is
people
sad.
end up swimming there, technically, we're supposed to call the sheriff's office,
Okay,
but it could happen to you.
Wow.
right,
We don't have any policing for it.
correct.
We have our correct signage.
It's a very sad state.
It is.
We need to encourage our high school and college students
I
to,
mean, it is a very sad situation because we would like to have the beach open.
Right.
But it's also kind of nice to know we're not the only people that are having issues.
Yes, we're not alone.
So,
the minimum requirement are 2 lifeguards. And
yeah, we can't have one person there,
Correct,
like, it's just not,
it's dangerous.
especially one teenage person there.
Who is not lifeguarded before.
Right,
Right.
it's
Just-
just,
And the other thing too is it is very, very shallow.
Yep.
So there's no raft
No,
and there's no issue
Yep.
that, we're pretending it's open.
correct.
So just be done with it.
yeah. But
So
we
I'll
have
send out a note as of Monday. I have a call into Chris Rhodes to finalize, so we don't string anyone along, because it's 2 weeks out before we would start.
We're getting really close to when we should be opening and.
Right. We do have new steps for the beach though, to get
I
down.
haven't heard, but
Say that again?
I'm just wondering how we're doing with the geese over there.
Good. We are doing well. The goose permit, has been working. Several have been taken, and Mark Doniker?
Only see 2 geese on the lake, that's it.
Which is great. So the goose poop problem is way down. Okay,
Moving on, as you all should have seen, employee training is scheduled for June 22nd at 2:30.
trustees are required.
Trustees are required by state law to attend the employee training for sexual harassment and workplace violence. It is easier to attend the one during the day. If you can't, there are some online options available. So,
How long is it?
it's usually 40, the one that you have to come to is usually 45 minutes to an hour. It's not long.
Yeah.
The guys
It's
have to
welcome,
stay
yeah.
for a little bit longer. We will have lunch available.
And we do bloodborne pathogens at the same time.
We do bloodborne pathogens at the same time too, so if you multitask and need that, so you can do that as well.
That's on Wednesday, the 22nd.
Wednesday the 22nd at 10:30. So that's next Wednesday.
Right.
For reference.
And please let Crystal know if you're going to
Yeah.
attend.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, more or less, like, you let me know if you can't, and then I can arrange, give you the right information for online stuff.
Right.
The fire department, I normally don't invite them to this one. I might see if some of them can come to this one. They did well with, since Ryan, Marshall, and, Matt O'Brien are trainers for the fire department, they have those, classes also available online through their training, website. So they were able to do their training online at one of their meetings last year, and they might opt to do that again this year. I think they did that in August or September of last year, so they have another month or so if they need to squeeze it in.
Right.
Technically, they're supposed to have it every year as well, since they're not village employees, but they're village volunteers, and it's a little bit different for village, fire department volunteers, so. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Ted from Williams and Lubbock to close the 2021-22 year and start our new fiscal year officially in the accounting software. Mark asked me last week to speak with Kevin Townsend about presenting the OSHA, OSHA
Dig
10
safe.
training, for DPW employees. I spoke with him today, and he spoke with, Compliance, who's our workers' comp, people. They informed him that we are not required by law to have the specific OSHA 10 certified courses. But it is always beneficial to have that training, and they do offer the same type of training in person and free of charge. It's just not OSHA certified, for their members. The courses they offer are flagging, work zone setup, trenching, confined space construction, and lockout, tagout. The other courses that are included in the OSHA 10 are bloodborne pathogens and right to know, which Kevin Townsend already covers for us through our employee training. In addition, if we offer the in-person training, we can invite Lake Pleasant Central School and Morehouse, since they are also Comp Alliance members and they're close to us. And as a courtesy, we could also invite anybody from Lake Pleasant that might have to, or might need that training as well.
Just to make note, Crystal, that if we have a public project over $250,000, training is required. I'm not sure if Ed and Lenny have it. Yeah, I just read that today. So we might have to include them.
Okay. Yeah, we could include them. I just said DPW, but they could always, it's probably good for them to also have the training.
Yeah, because they did have a project over that cap.
That amount, yeah.
Yeah, and if we're having the training already, they might as well come, because they do, if they need it. It's good to have, and if we have it and we don't need to pay anything for it, then it's worth it, I think. So we'll be probably looking to do that within the next month or so, maybe 2 months, depending on how busy everybody is next month. We did the resolutions. Financial report number 12 is ready for approval for the next meeting, or ready for a review, and approval at the next meeting. And then abstract 1.
Yes. So at this point, I would like a motion to approve abstract number 1. It is a rather large abstract, being the beginning of the year, so it's a little
Anybody have
funny.
any questions?
Yeah. So may I have a motion to approve abstract 1 for payment?
So moved.
Mark, second. Cindy, any questions or comments at this time? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. At this point, since it's an HR matter, as many of you know, when DPW or water achieve a certain level of certification, like going to water school and CDL licenses and things like that, we reward them with $1 an hour raise. That is not the case that we have in place for training of the clerk treasurers. And there is a lot of training that goes on with that. It's not as easily said, okay, this is a water certificate or, so it's a little more complicated than that. So what I would like to propose is someone work with me to go through the different trainings that Crystal has achieved over these last 3 years and adjust accordingly to reward those trainings. So if I can have a volunteer to do that HR work with me. Mark? Okay. So Mark and I will come back with a proposal for next business meeting. Okay?
On the 27th.
On the 27th of June, yes. Okay? So old business, COVID. I don't even like to say the words anymore. FEMA emergency, we know that our last 2 projects are going out to bid. Thankfully, can't believe that that's been since 2019, but we've been very fortunate with that. FEMA COVID update, there is no update at this point in time, but we will get working on that. The McComas Fire Tower, we did break ground this week. I would personally like to thank C.L. Smith and his company for helping us with that foundation, digging the hole and helping us tremendously in that regard. And thank you to DPW and Water Wastewater for the help that they've provided. This week, the foundation will, as Ed had alluded to, the rebars will be tied, a huge slab will be poured on Wednesday morning. And then there's one other pour where they do columns to affix the fire tower. In addition to that, we have a number of volunteers working to set up the kiosk, to physically build it and develop those plans. So there'll be a little field trip with the estimator, Gwen Allen and myself, to Wanakina to make sure that we have everything that we need there and hopefully finally secure the plans that they had put up 20 years ago for their kiosk.
Comment.
And yes.
The history of that comes from the fire, the McComas.
The McComas Fire Tower?
Yeah, well, that was alluded to at the library lecture.
Yes.
It's fascinating. Is that information going to be included?
We are trying to get that information included. Yes. So Kathy O'Connell and Ryan Marshall are putting together panels. So there's a group that's actually building the kiosk, which is a small feat in and of itself. Then there's a group who's actually putting together the materials of that.
Okay.
So Kathy O'Connor and Ryan Marshall are doing the history of the McComas Tower and the towers in the county. That will be on 2 panels. It's an 8-sided panel. Next is the history of Speculator and our village historian, Bev Hoffman. Once we get some photographs and her material, as well as Aaron Weaver for Lake Pleasant to do that whole section of our history in the area. There will also be a walking tour and driving tour noted, and that's being done with Kathy O'Connell. She has they had put one together, but it'd be great to have it in a place that people can actually see and access. The Department of, I'm going to say it wrong, the Department of Tourism, Christy Wilt and Rochelle, they have provided a boatload of information of things to do and see in our area for our 4-season vacation land. We do have a volunteer, Katrina Morrison is going to help us with the copywriting of our materials, which is required, and QR code. So people can actually scan the code and come up with that information. And then the final panels will be quite a number of people who have donated funds as well as time and expertise. And it really is heartwarming to see the engineer who helped with the plans, which were quite extensive. He donated a chunk of his time. The builder himself is donating monies back to the tower, giving us a discount off the tower. CL, tremendous work there, and a number of others. So it's very humbling and very rewarding to see it coming together. And after the fire tower presentation at the library, which was a packed house. Yeah, it was standing in the hallway. It was really well received, and people are very, very excited about this. So it'll be a great opportunity. And I do have to mention Dan Wilt is fabricating the door that will keep it secure after hours, and we're working with a locksmith to have a timed lock on that. Okay, that was a lot. So the last time we spoke about building permits and new structure fees. So let me
Can we just go back to item number 5, septic system?
Yeah.
I'd
Yes.
like to send that to the lawyers for review.
Okay.
And under erosion regulations, as per our meeting today with Rick, that will be done under the land use codes and refer to New York State regulations. So that can be removed.
Okay. And we should comment to the lawyers that comparable regulations were put into place for Lake George. So they've been in effect for about 9 months to a year, that we can get feedback and information from them on that.
On the septic system, yes.
On the septic system, yes. Okay. All right. So let us go back to
Building permit.
building permits. And so I asked our code enforcement and zoning officer, Rick Rumsey, to be here. So there's been some offhand discussion during the last 3 weeks. What is on your screen right now are the current fees that are really inadequate to fund the code enforcement officer, the amount of time and effort that goes into executing permits and trying to bring that up to speed. So just as a review, the permits do not cover the costs of building code enforcement for many years, and the village taxpayers have been paying the deficit. So a restructuring of fees has been proposed to cover that. The overall cost of the building inspector, that includes salary, training, certification, Williamson law books, code books that we're updating to put online, and travel. We've estimated that to be nearly $7,000 for 2022-23, and then there's the $5188 in the salary for the zoning officer. That doesn't get covered by permitting, but it's in there. And that's been the case. That deficit has been running, at least for the last several years, in the amount of anywhere from $3,500 to $4,000 that the taxpayers are covering, and it should really be paying for itself. We are codifying the codes and bringing those up to date. Those will be electronically available to the public, and that's for a one-time well-spent fee of $13,500. So we're in the process. We'll give a very brief update about that. So the proposed changes in fee are based on the following. This is for every new permit, and every partial permit thereof you can kind of estimate. There are pre-build meetings, site visit and approval, initial plan review, meeting to review and approve changes, issuing permits, inspections, numerous inspections with footings, foundation, framing, plumbing, septic, blah, blah, blah. Any additional inspections or follow-up for failed inspections, issue a certificate of occupancy and submit to assessor. So all of that together is covered presently with a $200 permit fee, which by no means covers the amount of time and effort required. So on average, the cost of a 2,000 square foot new construction home runs between $300,000 to $400,000. So and percentage of permits, percentage of construction usually runs anywhere from minimal amount all the way up to 2.5% of the cost, estimated cost of construction. So if we did proposed 1%, the fee to the village would be for a new home build would be anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000. A proposed 0.5% permit fee would be $1,500 to $2,000. And so we've looked and tried to determine what those estimated revenues are. Rick went back and based on the permits that we've had, there were about 50 permits in the past year, 3 of which were new builds. And Rick roughly estimates that if we had this new permit structure in place, it would generate anywhere between $10,000 and $12,000, which would cover everything.
At 1% or 0.5?
That's 0.5%. At 0.5%, we would cover everything. Okay. Just about. So if we add together everything related to the code enforcement, salary, etc., and we add in the zoning officer, that would come to $12,200. And so the estimated revenues are right around that ballpark. We're going to be speaking later about possibly combining the planning board with the ZBA, and so just hold that thought. And there's a tentative suggestion that perhaps since there is so much work and training required for the ZBA and the planning board, that we offer them a nominal stipend of, if we did $450 for each person and $550 for the chairman, that would run us another almost $3,000 per year. So that's just something to throw out. So there are other villages that actually do that. They compensate much more than that, but that's something that I think could be considered. So with that said, if we did 1%, that amount would change to 24,000 if we didn't limit, if it didn't put a restriction on building. So some of the arguments have been 1% is fair, it's middle of the road out of the 2.5% average. Others have said, listen, we're in a recession that's going to be there for a while. We don't want to stop work. We don't want to discourage people from getting permits, and that perhaps we should look at a structured approach to increasing permits up to 1% over the course of maybe 3 years. So any thoughts or suggestions? I'm personally in favor of the 0.5%, and over a 3-year period, raise it to 1%. Like evaluate it after the first year, see how it looks, and then a very gradual increase rather than hit with a big change.
Yeah, I originally believed in the 1% increase, but I think if we phase in over the next 3 or 4 years, I'd go with the 0.5, as long as it covers cost and the taxpayer doesn't have to subsidize building permits and zoning code regulation.
I don't think we need to have that much excess at this point.
No.
So why not go with the lower number? And we can always evaluate.
And evaluate.
It's been way lower than that all along. So.
Yeah, so why don't, Rebecca, did you have a comment?
No, my only question was, will the 0.5%, it does cover it? I thought initially you said
It just covers. It just covers. So it's estimated to be $10,000 to $12,000 if our permits in the past year were converted to this fee structure. It would cover.
Just like to say there was only 3 houses built.
Correct.
Again, I don't know how much property is left in Speculator, and we may only get 1 or 2
Right.
building permits per year for that.
Alterations and
Yeah.
stuff, which also would be under the same.
Yes, so as is pointed out, there are partial construction, there's rehab, additions, those sorts of things, which are more likely to happen, and we would be able to generate some revenue to cover the village costs for that. But I think evaluating so I propose that 0.5% for the first year, evaluate it at the end to see if we meet, and then we review it each year and decide to adjust accordingly. That would be my proposal. Would someone like to make that motion
Mark will make the motion for 0.5%.
with an annual review?
Yes.
Second.
And Jim Rumsey seconds. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
And
Okay,
these will go into effect
July 1, yes. That's okay. So that was, okay, so, new business. Number 1 is another resolution. Resolution, where is that resolution? Planning grant, okay. Yes, okay, so this is a planning grant, and I have to go back to share. Okay, share. I should be adept at this, but I'm not yet. Oh, that's not the right one. There it is, okay. So this is a proposal to submit a non-point source planning report grant for the pavilion parking lot. So this is a DEC grant that would cover the generation of a planning report to address the ongoing situation of the pavilion parking lot, which we all know is a mess, especially during rainy times and et cetera. So what this would do is this would allow us to apply for a grant, and the grants are for the amount of $30,000 with a local match of $3,000. And so this would generate a report of what we could do to fix the pavilion parking lot, and then we would apply for grants to actually do that. So, Rebecca, you look.
30,000 just to put
The engineering reports. Right. So everything requires an engineering report. And the engineering reports are good for 3 years, and then they would expire.
And we would only pay 10%.
And we would only pay $3,000 on that. So I think with all the different ways we've tried to fix it and grade it and whatever, I think that it's worth $3,000 to see if we can.
Can't fix it without the report.
Exactly.
We have to have engineers.
Exactly. So I would like a motion to accept this resolution to submit a DEC non-point source planning report grant for the pavilion parking lot. Rebecca, and would someone second? Cindy, any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. We will apply for the grant, and I will let them know. The next one is a very brief general codes update. So this is codifying the codes. Rick Rumsey, Trustee Doniker, Crystal O'Brien, myself, and a representative from General Codes spoke very top line as far as the organization analysis for the code book. It will be in 2 parts. The first is the administrative and regulatory local laws. So all the local laws have been provided, and those that are missing are going to be provided. And those include a whole host of things from all-terrain vehicles to 5G cell towers, games of chance, planning boards, snowmobiles, water and wastewater in the one section. And then in the other section, it is the local land use. So those are the zoning laws, which are quite arduous. So there are sections of that had been proposed. Oh, Rick Rumsey's changed. looks like a little girl. Hi, Elle. So there are some sections that had been highlighted in the past, I think as far back as 2010 that had never been updated. So this is going to be our big push to get that done. So this is going to be an ongoing process. In addition to that, they are evaluating anything that have New York State codes and regulations that our codes will refer to.
$16,500.
Yeah,
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 and it's a one-shot deal.
yes.
You gotta mute that.
Yeah, Rick, if you would mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I gotta figure out how to do that.
It should be bottom left. There's a little microphone. Okay, thank you.
Got it.
Little snickerdoodle. Okay, any comments on general code? So there's a $13,500 initial fee that has been budgeted and was approved. And then there's a minimal annual fee that we have included into the cost of code enforcement to have that covered.
Yeah, the big thing is they're going to be workable documents, so we'll be able to, update them every year.
Correct. Which would be great. And then there are certain laws that we need to update.
They'll help us update
Yes.
for this year.
This
They
has
come
been
to be up to date.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been decades in there.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like decades, but yes, it's been a long time in the making. So the next agenda item is we have 2 vendor applications. Let me share. For the camp store. So these were combined. Why isn't that getting bigger? There it goes.
Well, he
Whoops.
dropped them off together.
Yeah, he dropped them off together and you scan them into one. That's why it's one. Okay, so the first is it's for food service at the Historical Society membership drive. And this will be a one-time event on July 23rd, 2022. And this should be down at the pavilion, isn't it?
The membership drive at museum.
Oh, at the museum, I'm sorry. So he would be vending at the museum. So we can do it one at a time. Any problems, questions about that?
No problem. No.
Okay, so he has all of the requisite insurance and
Yeah,
Department of Health.
He's always been really good.
Yeah,
about providing
he's very
that.
good. Okay, so all in favor of issuing this vending approval for the annual meeting for the Historical Society? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mark, second. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. The second are vending permits for the, I think are there 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, there are 8 Concert in the Park series. And Camp Store is requesting a vendor license for each of those to sell their hot dogs and their ice cream cart. Very, very popular, very successful. There are other folks available if people want to bring down from Frosty's or they bring pizzas down and things like that. So, anyone like to make a motion to approve this vending permit?
Mark and
Okay, Mark and Cindy, any comments, questions? Nope, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay, great. Next up is a park use application from the library and the Historical Society. This has been submitted by Sherry Matthews as the contact person. The program is an Onondaga Native American will be giving history and telling stories of the Iroquois Nation. As part of that, they want to have a fire pit. So this is a self-contained fire pit. We don't have open fires in the village parks. This is a request to have a contained fire pit. I spoke with Speculator Volunteer Fire Department, and they said in their estimation, someone from the fire department has to be on scene attending, and they have volunteers who will do that. They will have to have fire extinguisher at the site when they're, I guess they can dress it up as something, and not have a big red canister, but that would be available on site, God forbid, some flames jumped, and that would be addressed. So I would like a motion. So I think we have our bases covered, but I would just,
Where's it gonna be done
at the ball field.
Oh,
At the
ball
ball,
field and pavilion.
yeah. Well, the
But
fire
fire
pit
pit
isn't
will be
in the ball
in
field. Yeah, so it'll be in the ball field, and they're estimating about 50 people.
Will they be like on the base path? Because fire pits tend to kill the grass beneath it, very, very typically. So if you ask them to
I'm sure we could ask them.
maintain it
Near a path.
near the ball, the base path or a home base area without damaging the plate.
Oh, so you're talking about in the ball field? Okay, so on the baseball line, so where they have materials. Yeah, and they can do that out by second base. So it'll be far enough away so you're not, it kind of detracts if you're looking at a chain link fence, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But if they do it along, so
I mean,
we'll,
most of those, like, self-contained fire pits aren't very big.
no. But, imagining setting up 50 chairs and people sitting around, that should be fine.
So if we start this and the fire department said they could send some volunteers this time,
Yes.
chances are people are gonna see it and so we prepared for this to become a thing.
Well, perhaps we should discuss on what parameters, right? So I don't think that we should have private parties that have fire pits or fires going on. That I would not be in favor of. But I think if it's something related to an historical event of a town or library history event, but not on a private nature. That's I mean, this is tied to their theme. What do you think?
I think we need to be cautious because we could really be.
You're setting a precedent.
Once it's seen, it's right there.
Right.
Well, they had it, I'll come for my graduation party, gee, we'd like the roast marshmallows.
Right.
Yeah, question, is the pitching mound raised? Is not.
Not really.
And so there's a big open area there that is grass-free.
No, we understand that.
Yeah, no,
However, the question is setting a precedent.
Yes.
So if we allow it for this,
Damage repeatedly.
yeah, so that's the question is how repeated are you going to do it?
Or what are the guidelines? But we say yes to this, but we say no to that.
I think in general, it's a no. In general, I don't think we should have open fires on the, on the property. I think one-offs, if it's,
But you're saying yes to this one, or no to this one?
I'm saying, well, I would propose to say yes to this, being it's an historical society event, it's in line with what they're talking about with the Iroquois, Onondaga representative coming and giving history and telling stories of the Iroquois.
Can we?
When it's more of a community event, not a private event.
Right.
It's a community event, so,
It's community and
The community.
sponsored, right?
right, but we don't want every community event to start having a fun little fire that you can go.
No,
I think that's a case by case. What you're saying is that it would be a case by case,
right.
thing, like,
Right. So I think that if we do it, we need to go back to our pavilion and park use guidance and update that. So that is clear that those would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis for community-sponsored events.
Yes.
So, may I have a motion to approve the request for contained fire within the confines of the baseball lines to do no harm to the park, with the proviso that there is a representative or two from the volunteer fire department with fire extinguishers at the ready?
Yes,
Don't ask me to say that again. Jim?
yes, okay.
Okay, Jim makes a motion, second?
Right.
I guess so.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
second it.
all right. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Mark,
Okay, Mark says no. Rebecca?
It's okay, okay.
You can say no, that's absolutely fine.
I haven't had enough time to really think it through.
Okay, all right, so there's an abstain. So 2 yes, 1 no, 1 abstain. Okay, so that would pass. And we'll make a note to update our policies.
Yeah, as long as we're consistent.
Right, okay. So the next is the issue with our planning board and zoning board of appeals. So, under state law, we are not required to have a planning board. Under state law, we are required to have a zoning board of appeals. Our situation at present is that we had five very dedicated people on our planning board. Each term is 5 years, 5 people, 5 years. John Foley is stepping down due to commitments. It is nigh impossible to try and find willing people to take that place. In addition, Rosemary Tracy, after serving many, many years, for which we are grateful, is stepping down from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Likewise, it is nigh impossible to find anyone who's willing to take up that role. So in consultation with NICOM and another village by the name of Honeyoak Falls, which is a suburb of Rochester, it's come to our attention that there are a number of villages within New York who have opted to disband their planning board and give the zoning board the authority that you give the planning board. So it's a one-stop shop now. So that zoning board can be either 3 people, each a 3-year term with alternates, or 5 people with 5-year terms and alternates. So I would like to propose, given our situation right now and the way we're not quite functioning the way we should be, I would like to ask 1 or 2 trustees to review how we go about, and I've got a roadmap, how we go about dissolving the planning board and putting in ZBA with all those rights. Or come back with an alternative plan. So that's something I think we need to think about. And I'll provide you with the materials that I've been given, and we can contact some villages who have done that. So any volunteers?
How much time, what do you think?
Well, Mark says no.
I'm like crazy right now, so it just depends on the timing of things.
Well, I think that if we spent 3 to 4 hours looking through things, I think we could come up with a fairly good proposal. I think we have a pretty good roadmap.
Want the proposal by? Because if it's within the next,
Before July 4th?
I can't.
Okay, if we can do it by the end of July,
Yeah, that would be
reasonable? So that, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it soon.
So if we can, so my ideal goal, knowing that things take a heck of a lot longer than we plan, if we shot for the middle of August, to have a plan before this board and to open it up for public comment.
Well, it would, yeah, it would have.
It would have to go to public comment because we would be resolving a law and making a new one. Does that sound reasonable? So
Is this something where we have to be careful of how many people do it? When we have these meetings and sometimes.
we can do public meetings, right? So if we do it on the side as a committee, only 2 of us can do it. If we do it and make the meetings public, we can have more than that.
It'll be a public workshop like.
Right, so we can do a public workshop. And I'm not opposed to doing a public workshop because I think that will allow the public to get involved and have the planning board come if members of the planning board see what they think, or the ZBA see what they think. Want to play with us?
I mean, I'm willing to help out, but it just kind of complicates things.
No, I don't think it would complicate. No, I don't think it would. Do you think it would complicate things?
You mean,
Well, sometimes it's.
To review the materials?
Yeah.
No, we just set a date.
The public.
No, well, we don't, we just make it available to the public. We don't, So no, I think that would be.
Does Rick automatically attend? Because this is his.
No, he does not, no, he does not have to attend. He can attend, he's encouraged to attend if he wishes. I think it's, more important for, planning board and ZBA,
Okay.
those members to give us their insight and stuff. All right, so if we have, Trustee Smith and Cindy Rumsey and myself, we will try and knock that out and have something in place by the middle of August in a reasonable time frame. Okay, so the next, it's come to my painful attention that Juneteenth is coming. So for those of you who don't know, June 19th is a date that was where there was the emancipation of slaves in Texas, actually. So that has been a Texas state holiday for quite a few years. Within very recent years, it has become a federal holiday, and Governor Cuomo, before he left us, made that a state holiday. Last year, the county recognized it as a holiday, but not a paid holiday. And this year in October, they decided to give it as the 13th holiday. Yeah. So, yes. This past October, they added it to their list of county holidays. So I contacted NICOM and I gave you all an opinion piece from NICOM. And if I have my cheat sheet here. So the basic feedback from NICOM is that there is no federal or state mandate that requires local governments to adopt either federal or state public holidays as a paid day off for village and city employees. Local governments also have broad authority to adopt policies as it applies to employee benefits. This includes paid holiday time off from work. And in addition, I was informed by the NICOM attorney that he recently polled some mayors about the Juneteenth. And he said that the majority, not a vast majority, but the majority were not recognizing the holiday as a paid holiday. But a good portion were. So as public employees, as public employers, we do have a fiduciary duty to protect the public purse and recognize that paid time off has a fiscal impact to the municipality. So as a result, the fiscal impact to taxpayers has to be considered when we decide which local employees are given additional paid holidays. So at present, in reviewing the employee handbook, and thank you, Crystal, for helping me do that, we note that the holidays that we list do not recognize all federal or state holidays, nor does the county list either. So, and although some towns have said within the county that follow the federal list, they don't follow the entire federal list. So it's really a mixed bag. But right now, at present, if we don't recognize the holiday as a paid holiday, we are well within our policies. But with that said, we look to our neighbors because we are within the county, we're in the county seat. We are also within the town of Lake Pleasant. So I polled Arietta, Benson, Hope, Indian Lake, Inlet, Lake Pleasant, and Long Lake. 3 said no, they don't have it as a paid holiday. 4 said yes, we have it as a paid holiday. So what is the cost of giving our employees an additional day to make it 13 days off? It would be $1,603.04. So that's not in our budget. So,
Well, technically, they would be working on naming rights, so.
but there may be implications for overtime, since in this case it falls on a Monday, and that's trash day, and
Well, trash day.
And there's- no, I understand it's moved to Tuesday, but there are additional things that are done on Tuesday that would be with a shortened work week during the kickoff of the summer, that it may lead to overtime. So those are all things to consider. So we are not able to put off this decision till next time, because that would be after Juneteenth.
None of our employees are hired, it's extra.
Correct.
But they're all asking why we don't.
They're asking why, because the town of Lake Pleasant gets it. They are recognizing it. The county recognizes it. But it's a mixed bag as far as across the county. So if we're really doing, county employees are one pot, and if we look at the number of towns, it really is a mixed bag whether people are paying for it or not. So I think it comes down to, should we afford it? Is an additional day necessary? Something that we do that's not included on our list, but we do it informally, is to give a half day on Christmas Eve. That's not noted in our 12-day holiday list.
I don't know.
Are there, other holidays that other towns?
We do exactly the
Okay.
same. No, we do exactly the same as the county and the other towns. We all have the same list now, except this year they added Juneteenth.
Yeah, I originally thought that we should, but after consideration and some research, I would say no. It costs the taxpayers money. I'm one of those, and everybody on the board is one of those. To me, it should be something, negotiated. But at this point, I'd have to say no. We should not do that.
Shorty, we're not open for public comment at this time.
I know that, but if the county is closed that day, that means the transfer station is closed, and you won't be able to pick garbage because you won't be able to get rid of it. So that's a thought, that's all.
It is a thought. So
We're
it's
also opening ourselves up for,
additional.
let's say,
Well, right now I think we have
since this is a more racially perhaps based holiday, do we open ourselves up to problems like that? Like discrimination, homeless.
They also get personal days, vacation days. At this point, it's not recommended.
So last year, well, that's my feeling as well. It's based on the climate and actions within the country. We've had plenty of years to celebrate that, as they have in Texas, because that's what happened in Texas. It's not the day that slaves were emancipated or freedoms were done, is when they announced it in Texas. I think that Shorty, although it's not public comment, you do raise a good point about not being able to use a transfer station if it's going to be closed with the county.
Years ago, know also, the village adopted the county personnel policy. So all the holidays coincided with each other because at one time.
Well, they have to date. There's not a policy, huh?
Right, this is the only one.
Yep, this is the only one now. So there's not a policy within our employee handbook that says we follow the county or that we follow the town.
They can also pick up garbage on Monday, and that wasn't planned in our, the year's policy on picking up garbage and recycling, and hold it until Tuesday.
They can do that?
I'm sure
Do they have to?
They could do on Monday.
Well,
You know,
you may have to dump the truck more than once, but they pick up what they can, and we'll have to talk to Roger, but pick up what they can and hold it.
Okay.
How many loads do they normally take to the dump?
Do you know how many loads are usually taken to the dump, Mark?
No, I don't. We'd have to talk to Roger, but, worst case scenario, they pick up Tuesday. It's also Tuesday's also recycling, but I think they can do everything on that Monday and Tuesday that they're required to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's also interesting is that I went through all these different websites besides speaking to the supervisor or the town clerks, and the majority of them don't even list Juneteenth on their calendar. Those who have it don't even list it on their calendar and have called for special meetings and things like that on. So I think it's a really strange. So I would propose something that was done by the county the first time they did it, and that is to recognize that it's a federal and state holiday, but not have it as a paid holiday this year. And that we can evaluate it with further thought and see how it impacts and things like that, and consider adding it next year.
I'm in favor.
Yeah,
Agreed.
So at least we have
I'd rather do that.
some opportunities. So we acknowledge the fact, but it's not paid for at this time. So when it's recognized and not paid for, they have the option to take the day off, but without pay. Yes, they can use a vacation day or a personal day to do that. All right. So I would like a motion to have the village recognize Juneteenth as a holiday, but not a paid vacation day.
Mark.
A paid holiday. Okay. So Mark, second. Jim, any further comments or questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, so now, board roundtable. Camp of the Woods. So Rich, how you doing?
Good.
So Rich sent me a note, an email earlier this week, or last week, making a very lovely offer to our community. So do you want to say what it is? That'd be great.
So basically the change in terms of Camp of the Woods access from public access is to add the Saturday night summer concerts as open to the public. So they run from June 25th to August 20th. Different than my email.
Okay.
I put when the end of the summer season is.
Right.
But that actually is, it ends that Saturday morning, so that they have a concert that Saturday night, so.
Okay.
So it's actually August 20th. And then, maintaining that the church service also, which is 9:30 on Sunday mornings, is also open to the public. That's not changed.
Right.
But the summer concert is a change.
I think that's tremendous. The musical staff really do a great job with that, and I think that'll be a welcome.
Personally, I take my folks and it's an enjoyable evening.
Yeah, that's great. So, and there are restrictions as to what time visitors from the public can enter camp?
it's a half hour before you can show up, and, it's not like you can continue to stay there. It is a, member-based organization, so they're not allowed to maintain it open all day or anything like that. to the
Right.
public. But for that event,
It's just for the concert.
but for the concert, you can come to the concert, and they start at 7:30.
Okay, so the general public can arrive at 7, between 7 and 7:30, and then stay for that. And the concerts, there are generally 2 concerts that they perform.
Generally,
That-
sometimes they modify
that trade-off?
a little bit, but
Okay.
usually they alternate weeks. Usually it's, not one week it's one style,
Theme.
next week it's
Yeah.
another theme. Usually
Okay.
it changes.
All right.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, thank you to Camp of the Woods, and I'm sure a lot of people in our area will enjoy taking advantage of that.
And what do they need to do to bring food for residency
No,
or anything
no,
like that?
it's open
Just
to the
say,
public.
okay.
Just show up. So even if you have guests or whatever,
Yes,
just
there's
show up.
no,
Oh, terrific.
requirement.
Awesome.
Oh, great. Okay. So thank you for that. So the Saturday evening concerts are at 7:30, and the Sunday morning chapel services start at 9:30.
Right.
So thank you. That's tremendous.
If you can skip ahead to number 3, just like to do a recap on the seaplane.
Yes.
Just to note that was a joint venture with the village and Camp of the Woods. 50 years ago, Gordon Purdy and Clyde Elliott made it a joint venture, and it has been successful since,
So when that was first made as a joint venture, what they did is the FAA would come in and give safety courses for seaplanes. And that continued for many, many years. And I think it's within the last 10 years or so that the FAA no longer did the course, and it changed to public. And so they've continued ad hoc for these years. So they had a total of 22 planes that came in, some very unique planes, as far away as South Carolina, Rhode Island, Rochester. I do have to say that I had the distinct privilege of being flown in the 1946 Grumman Widgeon, which is a little frightening, but it was incredible. The two engine,
Yeah.
the double engine
Okay.
that weighs well over a ton.
Oh, that one.
So he said that as we were taking off, and I thought, oh man, are we gonna make it? But we did. So that was an exciting experience. They were so grateful for their welcome by Lake Pleasant, Lemon Tree, Frosty's, Sunrise, Logan's, Speculator Inn. They said everyone did a phenomenal job. The food was great, and all the many visitors that came down and visited, they were really grateful for a great weekend and 50 years. So yes, we are very grateful for the village and for Camp of the Woods starting this 50 years ago, and the fact that it's still well received and continuing on. That's been really great. As Shorty had mentioned, Robert Hoffman had mentioned during the public comment, a letter of communication, although it wasn't specified as such, we will make those notes to it, was received regarding, it's actually the 1935 Speculator Ford fire truck.
36.
It's 35. It's on the insurance is 35. So we did have the reason why this was the whole issue of the fire truck was originally brought was because the fire department has no use for it. It's considered surplus. It's used once a year for the parade. We pay for insurance and maintenance, and we've estimated that to be anywhere between $400 and $500 a year for the parade. There has been a request in the letter of communication to hold it until our 100th anniversary, which is in 2025. And we need to consider, in speaking with the fire department, there's no value in holding. It just decreases in value and continues to decay. So we agreed that we would not do anything and make any motions to do anything until July, after giving the Historical Society an opportunity to see what they want to do. So that will be put to the side. And then the last roundtable is we were talking about some of the capital projects that could be available with DPW as we have reserve funds. And something that was suggested just to start thinking about is to upgrade our playground area and perhaps include some adaptive devices. So this would allow people with disabilities and children with disabilities to have a swing, to have some adult swings where they're actually not locked in, but they're secured in bucket seats, to allow for that further enjoyment. So as we consider that, I contacted the planning board over in Lake George and Lake Champlain to see if there are any grants that could be available and just exactly what that would look like. I looked at some plans and you can spend tens of thousands, $100,000 in playgrounds, which I think is well beyond our means, but I think it might be interesting to consider a small addition and see what we could possibly do to serve those members of our community and those who come through our village. So we already have adapted picnic tables. So I think we have three tables that allow wheelchair access. So it might be in keeping with expanding that to our playground area. Okay, is there anything else under roundtable? Anyone want to add anything that we need to consider or discuss? I know it's getting late. No?
I'll just add that,
Yes.
The third grade appreciated that the mayor was at the community garden.
Oh,
when we
neat.
were studying about communities and
Oh,
what
nice.
is the community, what do communities have, and so it was
Yeah.
really neat to see that whole field trip come together.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I've been a member of the garden for 7 years, and I think the members of the garden were just as excited as the third graders. And Betsy Bain came as well. And it was a neat opportunity with the third grade boys. It's a boys class. So we talked about planting, we talked about sharing produce. They each had an opportunity to plant. Everybody planted onions and potatoes and tomatoes and peas and green beans, and then showed them different things that were already growing. And I have to say that the samples of basil and little tiny leaves of bib lettuce were a big hit with those boys. So a few asked for seconds, but we didn't want to eat the whole plants yet. So there is a promise of them coming back as fourth graders to do that. And there is an opportunity that we're exploring with Lake Pleasant and Soil and Water to look into they're called high tunnels. And so those are the greenhouses that you see behind the Wells Library and their building as you go through. So they're greenhouses basically, but they're long tunnels. They're much higher than the ones that we have right now. And this allows us to expand our growing season. So right now our growing season really is middle of June, beginning of June, maybe to, September with the frost. And this would allow us to expand it by a few months, which would be fantastic. The caveat I understand is that you have to give a portion to like a food bank or, shut-ins or things like that, which is what we do anyway. So I think it's a great opportunity. Thanks for bringing that up, but we'll be happy to do that, offer that going forward. So an LPSA is giving their awards to students at the school on tomorrow morning. They'll be doing that. So very, very good involvement of the classes, the seventh and eighth grade, who did presentations on invasive plants, insects, and water bugs. Yeah, but we've got a great crop of kids who are very enthusiastic. So that's terrific. So I'll be tomorrow. Right, anything else? Thank you for a very long, I think it's a productive meeting, but we've got a lot of things that we need to bring up to date and keep up to date. So I'll end with public comments. If Bobby Hoover, who's on the line, or Rich, or Shorty have any comments that they want to?
Talk about a long meeting, one time we had one that lasted to 1:30 in the morning.
We're not doing that, Mike.
Stop talking, Shorty.
Long time ago.
Yes.
That's when we used to do acceptance and all that.
No, we don't provide mats. So Rich or Bobby, do you have anything? No? Thank you for listening. We really appreciate the public being part of it. All right, so,
Thank you on behalf of the public to Camp Louis.
yes, that's really is a nice gift. I think there'll be a lot of great things to do this summer with the different concert series that we have. So, Mark, would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, so the meeting is adjourned at 8:55. Thank you very much and have a good evening.